All right, I just quickly checked that recorded because I can only record 10 minutes at a time off this free Bandicam. But anyways, this is another game state, so it's probably the built-in language, and then it's applying this function and it's passing these two parameters. This mod was probably defined up here in the lady mods. I don't know what the clear all is doing. Hopefully, if we can see this code that's identified somewhere else, it sets these two parameters, so that's what it's expecting to be put in there. It's not expecting 3, otherwise there'd be a comma and something else over here, but that code is only expecting 2 parameters, so that's what they pass it in. Mod reader code originally coded by this guy. Awesome. So this right here is a loop. Now it's going to take some explaining, but a loop is basically code that it runs over and over again. In this case, it looks like a for each loop. So it's going to have, we'll see if we can explain it as we go. So it's saying for I, which is just a variable, which probably stands for a counter number. So it's probably going to start at 1. Next time it goes through, it's probably going to start at 2 or go to 2, then 3 until it hits whatever ending parameters that it comes across. Now V is most likely a collection. So I don't know, like, think of the little arrows that you put on as a collection. You have all of those things that need to be pressed, and they probably live in V. So it's going to say for each iteration of the loop, do something on the collection. So each step of the collection, like I could say I have a collection of states, and I can say for each state in the collection, tell me how long the state name is. So for each state, and do that until it hits the end. So each state in the collection, tell me how long the state name is. And then the state name code that gets that length would be down here. So lady mods, this is the same thing as here. So they set it here, and then they're calling it here. So they're passing that in the pairs. So, I mean, you're going to have to do a little research on kind of what this is. Pairs is another function that lives somewhere else, and it's expecting that mod to be passed in. And then the do. That's why I said it looks like a for each loop. So it's going to go through, count, and for everything inside of lady mods, it's going to do this code each time that it passes through. It's going to do this. So an if statement is a Boolean check. So this is how games work. They work off of trees, and it can make decisions based off of what you pass it. So if the lady time, and I think we set the time up here to 0. So if her time is greater than or equal to V1, this 1 is identifying the index in the collection. So I don't think that I can draw this really fast, but the brackets identify an array. So if I had a collection of boxes like this, and they each had a number in it, 1, 5, 7, 8, and 9, I can store all of this in an array. So if you think back to a variable, if I called it my int, and I can only store one number in that because it's just one variable, an array can store many of the same type, and then it uses an index. Now, most programming languages start at an index of 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5 elements. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 5 elements inside of V. So this is referring to the first element. So Lua might start with 1. Rather than 0. It depends on the programming language. So if this statement returns true, if the time is greater than whatever is in that index, then run this code right here. If this returns false, it's going to return that code. Now, I don't know what the indexes are referring to, but this V is the same thing as that V. So if you can find out what that collection is, but that's what's in there. So if this is true, then it's going to run this code. And then this is another if statement nested within that first if statement. So If this gets run, then this line is going to get looked at. So if v index 4 is equal to LEN, which probably stands for length, and the lady time is less than the V1 plus V2, it's just taking the time. If it's less, then probably it's referring to player 1, player 2. I don't know. If this whole statement is true, or this whole statement is true, then run this code right here. Oh, I'm sorry. I said that wrong. I said if this goes, it's going to do all of this code. That is not the case. This end statement right here refers to this end statement. So if this returns false, none of this is going to get executed. It's just going to go straight into this end statement and that end statement. If this is all a block, that's why they tab it over. This end refers back to that end. So this if statement, if this is true, if table.getNv is equal to 5, then apply this game state. If this isn't true, then apply this end state or game state. I can't tell you what all of these specific things do, but I'm just trying to demystify the if statement and how it's going through. You're going to have to find out what getNv is for and why it would equal 5. This double equal sign is a comparison. So I'm saying, does 1 equal 2? And if that returns false, or 1 does not equal 2, so that would return false. Equal, equal. This equal sign up here and right here is setting the variable. They're two different things. So you can't say something like this. 1 equals you can't say 1 equals 2. That is setting 1 to 2. But you can do a comparison check like this. 1 is equal to 2. That's checking to see if these two values are the same. This would return false. This would return true. So that's what it's checking there. So we're going to move from that because I can't go more into detail. I don't know what the game command mod, all this inner stuff is. You're going to have to find out what V is, and then this is most likely an index. That's all I can tell you. Essential for setup. Gets rid of the interface and stores player and the lady player. So this is probably referring back up here to the lady player. So when this function call, it might be calling this code. I'm not sure. You will use this for loop for practically every instance after this. So this is another loop. So for I, V in pairs of lady player, that was lady mods, do this code. So if V then, it does comments. V in this level of the block represents an index of the table. So maybe the table is the inputs that you need to do. I'm not sure. AKA a play field. That might make more sense to you. You can perform checks for which play field to manipulate by adding an if statement with I. You can perform checks for which play field to manipulate. So which thing you want to manipulate by adding an if statement with I. That I is most likely referring to that I right there. V is checked for not nil. I'm assuming that's like a null statement. It's not undefined. I don't know what nil is. It's going to be something built into the LUA engine programming language. So if you can get a code base and just look up what nil is. So that if only one player is active, it will not crash the game. Cool? So since all of this is commented out, none of this is going to run. This is all information for you. So if beat, this beat is going to be referring back up here to, where did we set beat? We set it in local. So this beat and that beat are the same thing. So the game state, it gets song beat, is here. If it's greater than or equal to 0 and not checked, so that checked, this checked right here is referring back up here when we set check to false. So this is going to most likely return true, because this is saying if not checked, so if checked returns false, then do this code. If checked was true, this whole line of code would be wrong. That's the difference between an or statement and an and statement.